Well, good morning. If you haven't been here before, my name is Jenny and I'm an Aussie mum of 16 kids. Now 8 of them still live at home at the moment, which means we have an incredibly busy home. And I use a schedule every day that lets me know where I have to be and all the things that I have to try and get done in that one day. But do you know what throws my schedule into complete disarray? Yep, mornings like this morning. It's been quite the start to the day. Why? Because it's nearly winter time, it's cold in the morning, I'm tired, we've had a lot going on lately, and I slept through my alarm. Yep, well, that'll do it. And I also felt really bad for hubby because of all the mornings. Of course, it would be this morning where he had a flat tire on the work van. So he had to change a tire, I had to get all the kids to school and to work, and now I'm back home again to get my day started. Now when I got home, I hung all the washing out on the clothesline. I'm going to make myself a cup of coffee. I have a kitchen to clean. It's quite messy in here. There's always things to do in a kitchen, isn't there? There's always benches to wipe or things to put away. So I'm going to get that done after I finish speaking with you. And we're going to talk about pantry essentials this morning. Now these are all the things that you really ought to keep in your kitchen cupboard. That way you can have things that can help with your cooking, your menu planning, and it can take a lot of stress out of it if you want to take a simple meal and turn it into something really amazing, or perhaps you need to make a meal from scratch because your budget didn't stretch as far as what you hoped, or you couldn't get to the store for some reason. So let's run through my list of pantry essentials. So the jug is on boiling and I've got my coffee cup out ready, just waiting on that hot water. So while we're waiting on that to boil, let's have a think about what do you keep in your pantry? What are your essential items that you like to keep in your cupboards? Now, they might match up to my list, they might be different from mine. So if you have other things that I don't mention, why don't you pop them in the comments below, and that way we can all share different ideas about what we like to keep in our kitchen cupboards. Now, the jug's just boiled. I'm going to make my coffee. I'll be right back. This smells so good. This will definitely help. All right, let's get into this list of pantry essentials. So the first thing that you should always keep in your cupboard is some flour. Now I know it's called different things in different countries. So here in Australia we have plain flour and we have self-raising flour. Now the self-raising flour contains all the rising agents already in it, and the plain is obviously it's just plain. Now I think that might be called all-purpose flour in other countries. I'm not sure. Let me know if it's called something different where you are. Now you can buy them in white, which is the processed one. You can get wholemeal ones as well. Now I grew up having wholemeal everything. My dad loved to have wholemeal flour in our home, so we did a lot of cooking with wholemeal flour. You can make cakes, you can make bread, you can make pie crusts, you can make so many different things with flour. When you're storing flour, it's easy enough to get bugs or like weevils in there, so make sure you have an airtight container. And look, if you put plain flour and self-raising flour and corn flour and all these types of things into containers, they will look the same. So make sure you label them so that you know what you're using, because you're never going to get a cake to rise if you've put plain flour in it and you're supposed to be using the self-raising flour. So make sure you put easy to read labels on everything in your pantry. A lot of the containers that you buy nowadays already comes with a little scoop so that you can measure it and serve it out and use it as necessary. Otherwise, buy a little set of scoops and keep them in the containers with each of the products. I also keep a variety of cake mixes in my pantry and some batters, so like pikelet or pancake batter, because in a pinch they can be used to make great lunchbox snacks or an afternoon tea, and sometimes There's nothing wrong with having pancakes for dinner, so sometimes that might be necessary. So keep a supply of those in there as well. And one of the other important things to have is something like corn flour, which you can use to thicken up a meal if you're making like a casserole or a stew, and also bicarb of soda. Every household should have bicarb soda, whether that's used for cooking or whether it's used for cleaning. Always keep a couple of bags in the house, but keep them in an airtight container so it doesn't go all hard and lumpy. Now, your pantry essential item number 2 is sugar. I think it's really important just to keep at least 1 bag of sugar in your pantry. You could use it putting it on cereal or in your cup of coffee or anything like that, but you also use it often in baking. So if you're making cakes or slices, then you will need some form of sweetener. Now there's a range of different sugars that you can use. Now I grew up in a household where we used raw sugar over the processed white sugar. Some people don't like the taste of raw sugar and would much prefer to have just the white one. And that's perfectly okay. Whatever your family likes, you stock in your pantry. But you can have white sugar, you can have raw sugar. Brown sugar is great for cooking. It's also amazing if you're making sauces. So especially over things like a stir fry where you want the sauce to be quite tangy and then sweet at the same time, brown sugar is awesome for that. If you make a lot of cakes, you might like to have a supply of caster sugar, which is a finer version of your white processed sugar. Now, if you don't want to use sugar, there is a huge range of sweeteners out there that you can substitute into any recipe. And of course, there's our natural sweetener, which is honey. Now, stored correctly, honey doesn't go off. So it is something that I would recommend everyone to have a jar of honey in their pantry. And if you are cooking with honey, it gives a different flavor to your normal processed sugar. So again, whatever your family likes to use, make sure you have a supply in your kitchen cupboard. Pantry essential item number 3 is oil. Make sure you have some containers of oil in your cupboard. Now there's such a variety that you can use today, so again this will come down to personal preference, but you will use it in so many different things, whether it's actually putting it into the meal or whether it's actually cooking with it. So you can use pure vegetable oil, there's canola oil, there's sunflower. So any of those basic oils are good to cook with. If you're going to be putting the oil into the food, you might want to have something like some olive oil. And again, there's a huge range in the supermarket, so go and check out the different range. But when it comes down to it, if you are trying to save some money, just go for your home brands, your generic brands that you can buy in store, and you will definitely save some money. Now, if you happen to make a lot of sauces or stir fries, you might also want to keep a bottle of sesame oil. Now that's fine to store in your pantry as is, but once it's opened, I find I like to store mine in the refrigerator, but again, that's personal preference, up to you. So always make sure you've got a bottle of oil in the pantry, because you never know when you're going to need to fry something up, or you might actually need to put oil into the meal itself. Have a look in your pantry. Do you have salt in there? Salt is so essential. And I don't think we realize how essential it is to our health. Not only does it give flavor to our food, but it is important that we do have some salt in our bodies. So you don't have to go overboard. You don't have to load up everything with a ton of salt, but just a little bit is really important. Now there are different types of salt. We have our table salt, which is our everyday stuff that we sprinkle on everything. You could use rock salt, in the grinders, so you can actually grind up the salt, and you can get a variety of those as well. So you can get the pink Himalayan rock salt and you can get plain rock salt. And I always keep some rock salt in the pantry because I use it when I am defrosting the prawns. When I am putting the prawns in a dish of water to defrost them so I can peel them, I put rock salt in there too so that they maintain that nice salty flavor. Now on the supermarket shelves, you will also see iodized salt. Now I would recommend that you keep both in your cupboard, so have some normal table salt and some iodized salt. Iodized salt just has a small amount of potassium iodide in it, and for our bodies we all need some sodium, we all need some potassium, and we all need some iodine. So this is an easy way to get it, just in small amounts, and it's also great to use in your cooking. Of course my battery is flashing on my camera. I may need to stop, change a battery and come back in a moment, but we'll see how far we can get into this. So our pantry essential item number 5 is to have some seasonings in your pantry. So look, you can take a very simple meal and turn it into an amazing meal just with a combination of seasonings. So we were just talking about salt. And what do we normally put with salt? We have some pepper. So great to have a container of pepper. Now whether that's the already ground up pepper or whether you like to grind your own peppercorns, that's fine. Just make sure you have a small container in the pantry. Now in most meals around here I use onion powder, I use garlic powder. We absolutely love to put those in. We love the flavor. So we don't always have a fresh garlic clove sitting around or some onions. To get that flavor, you're going to need to have some in the pantry. Now you might like the crushed versions that you keep in the refrigerator once you open them, but I think the powdered versions just last so much longer. So you can buy a small container, put them into, you know, I have other containers that I keep in my pantry to keep them all in the same place together, or a basket that you could put in there and put all your herbs and seasonings into there. Now if you have some favorite flavors, make sure you keep a supply of those as well. What about some Italian herbs or some all-purpose seasoning? Now that's one of our favorite things to do actually, is to take some washed white potatoes, so I don't even peel them, cut them up, I pour some oil in, that oil that you have in your pantry. Remember, you need a supply of that, so pour that oil in there. Then I put some all-purpose seasoning in there, give them a good toss through, put them in the air fryer and cook them up. And everybody here loves it. It's so quick and easy to make, and they're yummy. Even hubby's like, you should not cook potatoes any other way. The air fryer potatoes are amazing. So we do them quite a lot around here. Now you also need some gravy powder, because gravy powder is actually very versatile as well. So you can use it to thicken up your meal, or you can add things to your gravy. All right, we're back. Battery's changed. Oh my goodness. Well, what was I talking about? Gravy powder. Gravy powder. So you need gravy powder in your pantry as well. It's a great way to season things really quickly. You can thicken up meals with it if you don't have any of that corn flour on hand that I spoke about earlier as well. And you can add so many things to gravy. So you could put onion in there, bacon, mushrooms. Mushroom gravy is fantastic. You can add other seasonings to the gravy. So if you like your Italian herbs, you can pop that in your gravy as well. So it's a really good thing to have on hand, and you can buy little boxes. You can get generic brands like your home brand gravy, which is really cheap to buy. You can get sachets like pre-made gravy now, so you can keep a couple of those on hand. But the dried stuff, of course, will last so much longer. And if you get the opportunity to buy a big container of it, just make sure it's sealed well and the moisture doesn't get in there, and it will last a really long time. Now, one other thing that I would count as a seasoning is a packet soup mix. I use things like French onion mix or a chicken soup mix in so many different meals. Very versatile. It's small, it's easy to store, and it lasts for a long time. So that's another thing. When you're in the supermarket, grab a couple of boxes of some basic soup mixes, and it will add so much flavor to a lot of your meals. I would much prefer to stay here all day and chat with you than to clean this kitchen, and I am procrastinating. I know I don't really want to do that, but we'd better get through these last few items so I can get the cleaning done. So let's get on to pantry essential item number 6, which is canned goods. Now, I think we have all learnt over the last few years how important it is to keep a small supply of canned goods in our cupboards. If there is a disruption to your income, if there is a disruption to the supply of the food in the grocery store, if there are limits put on at the grocery store, we all know how important it is to have something at home that we can feed our family with. So having a supply of tinned foods is a must in every family kitchen. So canned foods are great because they last a really long time. Just make sure you don't pull the labels off so you know what's in there. None of us want those surprise tins at the back of the pantry that we go, we don't know what's in there anymore. We could be getting peaches, we could be getting corn, we might be getting beans, who knows? So make sure that they're labeled, and if you're frightened that the labels are going to come off, then just use a marking pen and write on the top of the tin anyway, and then you will always know what's in there. Some of the basics that you should keep are foods that you can make a complete meal out of straight away. If for any reason the power went out and you couldn't cook it, can you eat it straight out of the can? So things like baked beans are really good. Lots of protein in there. They're tasty and they're versatile. You can put it with some bread or some crackers or anything like that, and you can still have a full meal. I keep a good supply of tinned soups because I often use them in cooking. So if you've got some plain beef mince and you want to add instant flavor to that, you can add a couple of tins of concentrated soup into that, and there you have it. You've got dinner ready and lots of flavor in there as well. Then you've got the canned goods that are great for extending meals, making them go much further, and again, that instant flavor that you can add to something. So I'm talking about things like lentils and about tomatoes, and they would be my two that I always keep in my pantry. So having cans of some sort of beans or lentils that you can put into a meat dish or into a pasta dish and just make it go much further, and you can feed so many more people with that. And of course, one of my favorites, you can't go past like some beef mince and turning that into a bolognese sauce with just some tinned tomatoes. So you can buy them whole, you can buy them crushed or diced, and they're going to all work the same, but you'll get that beautiful tomato flavor. So keep a few of those in there. Now, other canned foods, some tinned fruit never goes astray. You can use that for any kind of dessert. But again, if you are stuck and you needed to have something straight away, just having a tin of peaches or a tin of apricots or something like that is always great. I also keep things like this, which is evaporated milk. And I use that when I'm making potato bakes or pasta bakes, any of those types of dishes that require sort of a milky base to their sauce. This is always in the cupboard. So if I don't have fresh cream or I don't have fresh milk sitting around ready to cook with, I've always got a can of that in my pantry. Now, number 7 is to have some pasta, some grains, and some rice in your cupboard. Why? Because it's just such a filling meal. You can use it to extend a meal, or you can have it on its own. Now, everybody saw what happened a few years ago and how fast that flew off the supermarket shelves. Everybody was wanting to buy the rice and the pasta because we know that it stores well. Now, the only thing that I would really stress is that if you are going to store it for quite some time, make sure it's in an airtight container. Grains can be prone to getting bugs in them, so you want to seal them up really well. If you are going to store them for a long time, you might want to invest in some vacuum seal bags where you can sort of seal it all up, label it, and then put them into food grade plastic containers and then store them away. Make sure they're not out in any place where it might get damp or too much heat or sunshine on that as well. Now, everyone loves to make a good pasta bake, and you can add in just a nice creamy sauce with that, or you can add meat and veggies, which is a great way to feed the family. Or if you're like me and I have a lot of pre-made and pre-cooked frozen meals, then I can pull those out and I can put a side of rice on with that, and it's perfect and very filling for the family. And it's quite economical too. If you're freezing your meals, you have that supply as well, and then you have these pantry staples where you can pull those out and just you pull the meal together for the family. It's so quick and it's cheap to do it that way. Oops, it's gone dark. Hello, light is back. There we go. So the phone rang and then somebody came to the door. So I'm back again. What a day so far. Okay, let's get back to what we were talking about, which is the final thing on my list for the pantry essentials, number 8, which is to have a variety of sauces in your pantry. Sauces are great to put over meals, sauces are great to put into the meals and can change the meal entirely just with the different flavors. Now in this house I keep tomato sauce, barbecue sauce, a sweet chili sauce. I keep the mild one for myself and I keep the really spicy one as well because some of the kids really like that. I keep Worcestershire sauce and some soy sauce. That's probably the basics that I keep. So many in the grocery store now, so just have a look at what your family likes and then keep a couple of bottles of each flavor that you really enjoy. Now another sauce that you should always keep in your cupboard is to have some stock. I do like to make stock occasionally, but most times I just have it as a cube or in the long life containers. But it's pretty essential when you are making meals up, when you need that little bit of flavor and the liquid into the meal, that's the way to get it in there. So grab a couple of those next time you're in the grocery store. One other thing that I keep in my pantry, and I kind of keep it under that label of sauces, is a bottle of vinegar. Every single person should have a bottle of vinegar in their house. It's a bit like the bicarb of soda. Everyone should have some bicarb soda in the house and everyone should have a bottle of vinegar in their house. And you will thank me for that once you realize how many things you can do with a bottle of vinegar. So it comes in a big bottle. You can get like 2 liters. It's cheap. You just buy the generic brand and it lasts forever. Pop it in the bottom of your pantry and then just use it as necessary. So you can use vinegar in your cooking and in your cleaning. What a great natural alternative to clean with vinegar. So make sure you add that to your shopping list next time so that you have all the essentials in your pantry. Despite the rush start to my day and all the interruptions and the flat batteries and everything else, I have really enjoyed standing here and chatting with you. And I hope that you've learnt a few tips there, and if you have any extra things that you think are essential that everyone should have in their pantry, pop that in the comments below and make sure you are subscribed. I'm going to get to cleaning this kitchen finally and well, it's just got to be done, so I've got to go, but I really enjoyed spending the time with you. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. God bless.